Have you ever found yourself standing in the middle of a comic book store or a convention with money burning a hole in your pocket? You're surrounded by thousands of comics, but you're completely drawing a blank on what to look for. I know I have, and if you're like me, those don't tend to be moments that I look back on fondly. And that's where the top 10 comics on a budget series comes in. Whether you have $20, $50, or $100 to spend, this video, or one like it, will give you 10 assorted comics to consider the next time you head off in search of new comics for your collection. Welcome to the top 10 comics on a $100 budget for the summer of 2023. Let's get to the books. The long-awaited Flash movie has finally made its way into movie theaters, so why not kick off the list with a Flash book? In the number 10 spot, we have Flash 197, the first appearance of Hunter Zolomon as Zoom. I have to admit, the whole Reverse Flash, Zoom, Zolomon, Thawne thing is as clear as mud to me. If you're not up to date on the Flash like me, here's more or less what I figured out. Every Flash has his own version of the Reverse Flash. The Golden Age Flash, Jay Garrick, had the rival, who's now considered to be the first Reverse Flash. Barry Allen, the Silver Age Flash, has the Eobard Thawne Reverse Flash, who also went by Professor Zoom. Following suit, Wally West has our featured Reverse Flash, Hunter Zolomon, who seems to primarily go by Zoom. While Zolomon didn't make his first appearance in this issue, he first appeared in The Flash Secret Files and Origins number 3 back in 2001. It was June 2003's Flash 197 where Zolomon donned the Reverse Flash costume for the very first time. The story, titled Rogue Profile Zoom, was written by Jeff Johns and drawn by Scott Collins, and recounts how Zolomon gained his abilities following a crippling run-in with Grodd. In the current market, a high-grade copy of this book will run you between $75 and $100, and I think it's a great example of a modern DC book that is worth keeping an eye out for. Blasting in at the number 9 spot is an often overlooked early appearance of the Punisher, Giant-Size Spider-Man number 4. Inside of this Gil Kane drawn cover, you'll find a 27-page Jerry Conway story, you know, the guy who had just killed off Gwen Stacy a few months before, that was drawn by Ross Andru, featuring what is arguably either the third full appearance of the Punisher or his fourth overall appearance, as there seems to be some uncertainty regarding Amazing Spider-Man 134. Was it a cameo? Was it a full appearance? Let us argue for eternity. If you grew up in the 90s and enjoyed the Toy Biz Marvel Superheroes toy line, you may remember the Punisher's Battle Van. Whether your memory was from playing with it or just wishing that you had it, the Battle Van is actually one of the most desirable pieces from that entire toy line today. I bring all of that up because Giant-Size Spidey number 4 is the first comic book appearance of the Punisher's trusty Battle Van. Also debuting in this issue was Moses Magnum. This April 1975 issue shortly precedes Marvel Preview number 2, the magazine that features the devastating origin of Frank Castle's Punisher. Based on recent sales, $100 and a little bit of patience should be enough to score you a pretty nice copy of this early Punisher issue, and it's the most affordable option for an early appearance of the Punisher for a fan on a budget. I realized while I was working on this list that I've talked plenty about He-Man on the channel, but somehow I've never talked about his twin sister She-Ra. Our number 8 book is December 2014's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe number 18. She-Ra has a long and winding story when it comes to comic books, well, at least when it comes to regular old US comic books anyway. After first appearing in a 1984 mini-comic that came with her action figure, She-Ra would next appear in a movie theater giveaway comic that was produced in 1985 before receiving her own comic book title in the UK in 1986. As I do the math, it was over 30 years from the time that She-Ra first appeared in print in the mini-comic until she made her first full story appearance in a standard size US comic book. I qualify it with in story because there's actually a variant cover to the series premiere issue that featured She-Ra and her horse Swiftwind as well. Unfortunately, that one is well out of reach for our $100 budget, selling for more around that $500 mark. Turning back to He-Man 18, I'm happy to report that you can pick up a high-grade copy of this book for right around $75 in the current market. So if She-Ra is your thing, or you want to diversify your He-Man collection, check that one out. Marvel's original movie star did not receive the warm reception that Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man did when it was first released. In fact, you could say that the audience's reaction to 1986's Howard the Duck was downright foul. The years weren't kind to Howard following the film's release either, and that was really until the character made a cameo in a post-credits scene that accompanied Guardians of the Galaxy. That cameo was enough to breathe new life into Howard the Duck's first appearance in Fear 19, and also in our number 7 book, Howard the Duck number 1. Cover dated for January 1976, Howard the Duck number 1 is just Howard's 5th appearance overall, but it's only the 4th appearance with a name. That's right, when the character debuted in Fear 19, he didn't even have a name. That would come when Howard returned in 1973's Man-Thing number 1. Howard the Duck number 1 was written by co-creator Steve Gerber, with cover and interior art from the immensely talented Frank Bruner, who'd been killing it over on Marvel Premiere and Doctor Strange for several years at that point. Making her first appearance in Howard's solo title debut was Beverly Switzler, one of Howard's closest supporting characters. If you've never seen the movie, Beverly was played by Leah Thompson, who was fresh off the success of Back to the Future. Howard the Duck number 1 had jumped up over the $100 mark in the last couple of years, but it's settled back down value-wise lately. Our $100 budget should land you a very collectible copy of this Bronze Age classic. What list is complete without a Batman book? The Bat swings into the number 6 spot on this list with Batman 386, the first appearance of the Black Mask. I mentioned this book a few years back, but it seemed like a good time to bring it up again, as in the current market, you can get a high-grade copy of this one for $75 to $100 at the moment. Cover dated for August 1985, the story titled Black Mask, Losing Face was written by Doug Monk, who you know is the guy who co-created Moon Knight, while Tom Mandrake handled the cover and interior art for the issue. The issue features not only the Black Mask's first appearance, but we also get his origin story. Roman Sionis was born into a wealthy family that loved their social status a little bit more than their son. After going to work at the family business and falling in love with a working class girl who his parents didn't really approve of, Roman's parents forced him to end the relationship, and you could say he didn't take it well because he wound up burning down the family home and killing his parents in the process. That did mean that he would wind up inheriting the business, which he quickly ran into the ground, and this failure across virtually all facets of life is what drove Roman to adopt the Black Mask identity, using fragments of his father's ebony casket to make the mask. I'm sure psychologically there's nothing to worry about there. Coming off of a crazy spike in value and the subsequent return to reality is our number 5 book, Uncanny XMen 221. After pushing $200 in late 2021 and early 2022, the spec on Uncanny XMen 221 cooled way down, like it did with most X-Men books, when it became apparent that Marvel was not in a hurry to introduce the mutants into the MCU. Cover dated for September 1987, Uncanny X-Men 221 is the first appearance of the X-Men villain Mr. Sinister. The creative team consisted of longtime X-Men scribe Chris Claremont and a young and upcoming artist named Mark Silvestri. As many times as the movies have relied on Magneto, the Sentinels, or Dark Phoenix, it's safe to expect that Marvel may not want to follow in those footsteps of what Fox has already done. Couple that with the character's prominence in the X-Men animated series, I don't think we've seen the last of Mr. Sinister, and at a price of $75 for a raw high-grade copy right now, it's a great time to seek this book out if you haven't picked it up to this point. If you've been around the channel long, then you know I'm not much for modern variants. They're volatile and generally bottom out in demand and value over time. Well, I'm going to make an exception with our number 4 book, which is Life with Archie number 23's Afterlife with Archie variant. This cover may look familiar, as I previously covered the Afterlife with Archie magazine that directly swiped the cover from this comic variant. It's crazy to think that this Francesco Francavilla cover single-handedly launched the entire Archie horror imprint from the mid-2010s. All of this was made possible by Archie finally dropping the Comics Code Authority seal in 2011. As the final holdout on the CCA standards, things like zombies, ghouls, werewolves, and all the other good things in life simply weren't permissible in their comics up to that point. Life with Archie 23 was cover dated for November 2012, and it featured a Paul Cooperberg story and cover and interior art from Fernando Ruiz. No disrespect to the creative team, but they are not why we're here. It all comes back to that variant cover. The Archie horror imprint has been trickling books out over the last couple of years after really going hard during the period of time that Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina was active. Due to the slowdown, this variant has come back down in price, so now it fits in our budget. Though it's not particularly common, which causes a lot of overpriced buy it now listings on eBay, with patience and some luck, this one can be yours for right at $100. All right, real talk. Let's be honest. There aren't a lot of good covers featuring the Hulk's nemesis, the Leader. He doesn't even make the cover his first cameo and his first appearance issues, and when he finally does land a cover appearance, it's a split cover due to Tales to Astonish being a book that was shared by Giant Man and the Hulk at that point in time. On top of that, it's a profile shot and only the side of his face and his left hand are on the cover. It pretty well just sucks. All that said, if you want a classic Silver Age cover featuring the Leader, you need to check out the number 3 book, Incredible Hulk 115. Cover dated for May 1969, this late 12-cent Silver Age offering from Marvel Comics featured a story from Stan Lee in one of artist Herb Trimpe's earliest issues on the title. Before Trimpe wrapped up his run on the title, he would help introduce some iconic characters into the Hulk mythos. Characters such as Doc Samson, Wendigo, and some little guy named Wolverine. Word on the street is that Tim Blake Nelson will be returning to the MCU as Samuel Stearns, who, when we last saw him, was being exposed to some heavy amounts of gamma radiation. I hope when Captain America 4 comes out, we get a classic leader in the MCU. We need a mad scientist in the universe that can be a long-term headache for our heroes. But for now, the market treats this book like a filler issue. So if people start looking for that decent leader cover once the character hits the big screen, this one could get pretty popular pretty quickly. Right now, it's quite budget friendly, and $100 should get you a very, very nice copy of this underappreciated Silver Age issue. One of the questions I regularly get goes something like this: what Bronze Age DC book should I be looking for? Well, the number 2 book is a great example of an entire genre of Bronze Age DC that's worth checking out. The book is House of Secrets 100, and as you might have guessed, the genre is Bronze Age DC horror. Cover dated September 1972, House of Secrets 100 features a classic horror cover from legendary artist Bernie Wrightson, and inside this anthology issue, you'll find 6 different stories, including one from Joe Orlando and another from Sergio Aragonés. DC has so many great horror titles to choose from, though House of Secrets is home to the biggest and baddest single issue of them all, that being House of Secrets 92, the first appearance of Swamp Thing, which, as you probably know, has been one of the hottest books there's been in the last 12 months. Its sister title, House of Mystery, swapped formats beginning with issue 174 to become a horror title back before the Comics Code was loosened up in the early 70s, which would allow such a thing. So I'm not really sure how DC managed to get away with that, but it worked out for him, I think. Other titles to look into if Bronze Age DC horror sounds like something you'd like to check into include The Unexpected, Ghosts, Weird Mystery Tales, The Witching Hour, Secrets of Haunted House, and Weird War Tales, just to name a few. House of Secrets 100 is not going to hollow out your bank account by any means, as you can pick up a high-grade raw copy for just under our $100 budget, but if you go down this particular rabbit hole, I suspect you're going to have invested quite a bit of money and time before you complete some of these rather lengthy but very cool runs. topping the top 10 comics on a $100 budget for the summer of 2023 list is Amazing Spider-Man 298. I mean, what? A second Spider-Man book? I know, my bias is showing again. But this one recently caught my attention, and you may be wondering why. ASM 298 recently caught my attention because I had multiple copies of it, and I sold them. I sold them all, and after I'd sold them all, I kept getting asked if I had even more copies. This was a first for me. 5 years ago, it was always, do you have ASM 300? Then when the whole is ASM 299, actually Venom's first appearance thing heated back up a year or so ago, it was, do you have ASM 299? And here we are today, and everybody is actively hunting ASM 298. I didn't get the memo, so I'm not sure why this is happening, but I'm here to spread the word and let you know what I've been seeing firsthand. ASM 298 is the last of the 3-issue arc that first introduced the villain Venom that you can still pick up for $100, and just barely at that. Issue 300, while it's not as high as it once was, is still well beyond our budget. And ASM 299, which used to be just $5 to $10 more than 298, is now starting to push $150 for a raw high-grade copy. Maybe I've just been seeing people checking down to the next most affordable issue. Maybe collectors have suddenly just taken an interest in getting that first ever Todd McFarlane ASM issue in their collections. Or maybe it was just some weird coincidence. Amazing Spider-Man 298 was the March 1988 issue of the title, which, as mentioned, featured Todd McFarlane on art on both the cover and interior of the issue, with a story titled Chance Encounter, because the actual baddie of this issue was Chance, and the story was written by David Michelinie. And there we have it, another top 10 comics for the collector on a budget. As always, the content in this video is not financial advice, proven investment strategy, or anything like that. These are just 10 comics that, for the reasons I mentioned, I think are interesting, collectible, nostalgic, or just simply cool. Also, a few of these books are freshly back within a $100 budget, which might mean that you're able to pick up a book you previously wanted, but were priced out of. Looking ahead, I hope you're ready for some more top 10 lists as I get caught up and back on our regular schedule in the coming weeks. Summer is officially upon us, and I hope you're able to take advantage of it and get out there and find some new comics for your collection. Regardless, it's hot, so don't forget to hydrate. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next one.